Another day at home, ladies and gentlemen. We've already had our morning walk and I'm just having my morning cup of tea. It's tea o'clock. Just because I'm working from home doesn't mean my schedules go all out of whack. I always have a cup of tea. Done a lot of programming this morning and I've spent a bit of time doing some networking. I'm just gonna have a cup of tea. I'm gonna go back and do some more some jig. I've got someone's replied to me. I've kind of foisted the conversation into the direction I wanted it to go into, but I've got someone's ear. I've just got to play that now. And even if I don't think that they are a potential client, but I think they do have potential to be able to give me some insight. Oh my God, there's a guy walking down the street. He's got 3 English bulldogs. They are all so fat and rolly. Oh my gosh, they are so cute. Do you want me to take one from you? I'll look after it. They are a consultancy company, which are potential clients for me, but are less likely to be because they, as a general, to tar all consultancies with the epithet, they don't usually care about code quality. This company is one that pretends to. So I'm going to talk to them and try and figure out if I can get some kind of insider knowledge on how they do that, basically. The problem with outsourced developers is an outsourced development company gets paid for the amount of code it writes, not how good that code is. So it's kind of, they are renowned, especially, so some companies aren't that bad at it. So places like Scott Logic, which is based in Bristol, they like pride themselves on being like the best and like the cleverest and whatnot. But most companies, especially ones that are outsourced abroad, focus on just basically getting as much work done as possible. I've worked with a couple of them in my time, in my career, and they all just generate a shitload of garbage. So they usually... I was about to close that on you then. Just down to the fact that their business model isn't long-term maintenance of a code base. It's they're hired to get over a line, and they'll get over the line at all costs. So they're not normally the right kind of client, but I've approached a couple of them on the grounds that they can differentiate themselves on having their code effectively independently verified by a third party. So I don't know. Like I say, I've got the ear of someone now, so I'm gonna like hammer that home, just see if it's anywhere near potential. But we'll see. We'll see. I've got to flex a little bit because I don't know how much they believe me. Yeah, otherwise, development-wise, I've just finished off the build step for my basic pipelines. That's all piped in. I haven't run any automation tests against it yet. I haven't written them. So I'm going to run those against it and make sure it works, basically. And then I'm going to flesh out the same thing for the test bit, which should be a case of copy and paste the tests. Which is great. I love that kind of thing. Just copy and paste like 15 tests, rename them all from build to test, and then write one line. And it all uses the same code underneath, which should be good with slightly different values. So I'm happy about that. Yeah, a bit of progress. I woke up this morning, I was kind of in a bit of a like, I feel like it's like dawned on me now what it is that I do and how hard it's going to be and how lonely it's going to be. So I kind of woke up and I went out for my walk and I put my podcasts on and I was like, okay, we need to fight through this. This is like, you can't a week in be like, oh, this is a bit lonely. You've got to be like, bang. Like, you've got to push through this and keep fighting. So I had my little pace around, my fresh air to get my head right for the day. Came in, did some networking stuff, cup of tea, programming stuff. Let's hit it, boys. But yeah, it's a long time only talking to Laura. I think that's the thing that's like kicking into me. But tomorrow we're excited because we've got a boiler person coming around. Oh, Laura hinted. She said she doesn't want to get into the habit of asking me to do things in the house because I'm supposed to be working. Like, this is my job now. Just because I'm at home doesn't mean I can do all the chores. But she asked if I would be okay hanging out the washing. So now there's a bra in there and that's pink. Does pink go in a whites wash? I doubt it. I'm gonna get in trouble for not washing that. But yeah, she was like, "Do you reckon I could ask you to do a whites wash? To hang the washing out if I put a whites wash in?" And I'm like, yeah, sure. And she was like, "Oh no, I shouldn't really ask." So she hasn't put the wash in, so I'm gonna put the wash in and put it out for her. But this is pretty naughty of me because I should be at work. You wouldn't do this in an office, would you? So I had a lovely lunch. I sat outside and had my lunch today instead of just sitting in and watching TV or whatever. Quite nice. I sat out in sunshine, bathing it in, soaking in sunshine. I'm talking to you because I'm trying to figure out at what point I flatten the objects out of the domain. Basically everything works. I've done the test and I've done the build bit. I say I've done the test. I haven't tested the test bit yet because I can't query the database for gets. Ignore me. I know what the problem is there. Let me just fix that 1 second. Fix that problem. That was me being a dickhead. So I have tested it now. Tested the test bit and the build bit. All works great. What I'm now doing is doing the querying. So I'm querying the data via the API so that I can pump it back out to the user. I'm trying to do that. I'm going to do that in a way that they passed it in, so it basically looks the same to them. But obviously in the domain, I have all of these class-based domain models rather than generic input flattened objects that the user passes in. And I'm trying to figure out at what point I flatten it. Is there any reason why my query results can't be flattened in my CQRS pattern? I think they can be flattened. I think I've decided on flattening it. In the time period between me starting to talk and fixing that problem, that's what I'm going to do. Do you enjoy me starting to talk to you about something and then deciding halfway through talking about it and then being like, oh well, this isn't really a conversation point anymore? Don't know. Otherwise I just got contacted by someone that I contacted a long time ago, a couple of weeks ago, about IP protection. And they've got back to me like 2 weeks later, 2 or 3 weeks later. 6th of August, I messaged them. At which point they said they were going to call me on the 7th. And then they're now trying to organise to call me tomorrow. Yeah, well, let's talk to them. You never know. Woof! It's got a fucking blue screen, boys! Hurry up and die. So we've got storing the steps, getting the steps out via the REST API and the microservice itself. I need to extend the API gateway. To be fair, I should get, let me just triple check that. I should get the REST call for free, at least on the get front. And yeah, so there's the GraphQL bit works as well. I just need to update the non-read portion of all this effectively. Just do it read on get basic as well. Happy fucking days, boys. So automation tests and querying extended the GraphQL models because I've now added a field onto my models. So we're doing good. I'm going to pause the timer there, I think. An hour and 45 minutes on one thing is a long period of time. I'm starting to zone out a little bit, so it's a bit early for tea o'clock though. Tea o'clock's 3 o'clock. Can I be dragged earlier? I probably can be dragged earlier actually. Let's have a cup of tea now. I used to have a cup of tea at 3 o'clock because by the time you finished it's like basically going home time. But if I have a cup of tea now, then I can have a semi-decent run at stuff after this. Also, something I've been pondering is when is a reasonable amount of time to respond to someone's email? What's the difference between prompt reply and just looking a bit eager, like I've got nothing better to do than just reply to your emails? You know, it's just like, oh, you sent me a bang, it's like instant messaging. It's just like, I've replied to you as if it was a WhatsApp, but it was an email. God damn it, I was trying to get to the point where I could get this finished by the time that... Well, that's new as well, isn't it? I've just been like, oh, I forgot all about that. Just make a fucking note of that. Because of the customization of how customizable all of these steps are, and they're basically like the same object entity, what I effectively ask from the user is, give me the ID of the step you want and the inputs. You can query what inputs are accessible via the API or looking at the documentation. You'll be able to see all that kind of stuff. It's all handled on server side and it's all configuration based. 12 21 degrees outside, fam. I ain't wearing those shoes. I'm gonna put some goddamn shorts on. Yeah, so basically what I'm doing is I'm asking the user, like I'm not making that type safe because it's going over REST and it's a pain in the ass, basically. GraphQL doesn't like that though. And I'm not really sure how to work around that. So GraphQL doesn't like dictionaries. It doesn't support dictionaries. There's no out-the-box dictionary support for it. So I could either implement dictionary support, which is how I'm doing this input modules. Basically, you pass me a dictionary of the value and the thing, or dynamics, I guess. It's kind of like you pass me a dynamic object and I map that to a dictionary and then I map that to what it needs to be. Problem is that's not very GraphQL-y. So I need to figure out a way around that. I may have to display it as fields, which I've done for the step templates. Which is not bad, but it means I've got to do a little bit of mapping that I wasn't prepared to do. But it's walk time, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm going to head out for a walk. Come back and then come at it again. And then I've got the automation to do. So, not far off. It's been a busy day, fam. Busy day. It's kind of blown by as well, actually. I'm back from my walk, but I'm not feeling jumping back into work. Programming, at least, now. I'm going to cook dinner, because we're cooking a chili from scratch. I'm going to cook some dinner, and then I'm going to look at some admin-y stuff after that. Or on my laptop downstairs while I wait for Laura. One of the two, but I'm struggling to get in the zone. It's not bad. I've done 6 hours of work today, timed work. Get in your little head, Jimmy. Got it, get it. But let's cook. Well, dinner's cooked. There's not even left yet, mate. It's already cooked. It's ready. It's ready to go. I need to do pasta and garlic bread later. Let's get the washing in, and then let's go on my laptop for a bit. I think. Maybe in here. Listen to a poddy or something. I spiraled into a bit of a bad mood yesterday. And I've woken up today with newer energy, and a newer list of things that I want to do, which is good. I think, to be honest with you, the loneliness kicked in yesterday. I actually was quite productive from a development standpoint, but everything else felt like it was slipping. So today I'm going to focus on doing everything else, at least to a certain extent. I'm looking at doing a number of different things today, but what was I going to say? I also went out for a walk earlier and my battery didn't work, that's why I didn't vlog it. I'm going to finish off the development point for this GraphQL thing. I'm trying to decide whether or not I should blow it out and have the actual steps at this point, or if that adds no value. Because REST isn't type safe. GraphQL is. So should I basically put the types back in? But I feel like that's unnecessary. But anyway, I'm going to figure out a solution for that. I've got some blogs to write and some other general stuff. It's a good idea as well because Laura is going to be late home tonight. She's going out for drinks after work. So I've got even longer on my own. So I need to be able to really hold my mental state for as long as possible. So let's get productive. What's first on the list today? I have a phone call at some point to discuss with a lawyer, corporate lawyer. They're going to call me, I think, rather than me call them. I don't know their phone number. But maybe they'll get me to call them. I'm not sure. I've told them what time. Otherwise, AM, which is not good. I've also got the boiler man coming around today. So what I'm going to focus on so far this morning is getting these steps out of GraphQL. Let's figure out what it is, how we're going to solve this problem. I feel like we're going to solve it with a generic list of fields rather than anything clever. Again, the fact that one of them is an object rather than valid types is going to be a problem, but we'll solve that problem. So that's what I'm going to do this morning until my IP lawyer calls me. That's everything but the automation testing done. It bugs me when people say, when things aren't in a set time. Oh, there we go. Is that a little doggo? Little doggo in the window over there. Oh no, hello doggo, be my friend. I don't like things that might sneak up on me. Like at any point now, for the next 3 hours, my phone could ring, or it could not. I just don't know. I prefer being the initiator, or having like, this is the time. You know, I'm one of those people. I don't like sitting around waiting for stuff, because I'm now constantly like, well, I can't really do that now because I might do this, I might do that, or I might do that. But anyway, the API gateway is all updated. The client's finished. I'm going to wrap some automation tests around it to make sure that it's stable and works. That is the only thing I've got left to do programming wise. So I'm going to look at doing something ever so slightly different for a little bit. And that is focus on my blogs. My blogs. Is that what I'm going to do? Or am I going to do some, or am I going to look at more outreach, more lead generation stuff? What I really struggle with when it comes to blogs is figuring out when to stop talking. Like I'm kind of the way that I kind of like teach other people. There's two things. So if I'm like mentoring somebody or like explaining something, the two ways I work, basically, I draw. So like I get a big old whiteboard and I'm like, right, so here's what we're gonna do. And I draw it out as I go, and I use like the room around me to figure out what drawings I need, what I don't need. If I see that I'm not making much sense, I can start to draw things. And I'm a fond believer in the fact that like, if you ask something, I'll tell you it. Or if I think you need this, then I'll tell you it. Even if you don't necessarily need it for now, if that makes sense. The problem with that is you sometimes can artificially increase the size of these learning lessons because you're teaching things that aren't necessarily fall under that umbrella. It's like a building block, but it doesn't necessarily fall under the umbrella of the thing that you need. And I find it difficult in a blog to figure out when I'm starting to do that, when I'm starting to over-explain. And that's really difficult because you often take for granted what it is you know. If that makes sense? Like you take for granted the things that you're good at and you assume everyone else is good at them, so you don't need to talk about it. So those two things like kind of fight with each other. But what I mean by it is, back when I was in A-level, I did A-level chemistry. It might have been GCSE, but it may have been A-level. I think we were talking about moles, and I seemed to be like one of the few people in the class, and it might have been physics actually. It was physics. Was talking about something. No, it was chemistry. It was either chemistry or physics. And then 3 fucking bulldogs are going by again, boys. This is their walk time, clearly, 10 o'clock. 10 past 10, come into here, have a look, watch the dogs go by. So, we were talking about something in the class, and like, no one really understood what it was. I can't remember for the life of me what it was. No one really understood why this was a thing. And the teacher was kind of just like, look, it just is the way it is. Deal with it, basically. Like, the building blocks for this are above you, it doesn't matter. And I was like, but if you just tell us what the building blocks are, say like, you don't need to know this for the exam, but it might help. And it helped. Like, a lot of the class understood it because they now knew about something that doesn't usually come up until your degree level, apparently. But because we knew of that, it moved from being something that we're just being told is the case because it's the case, to something that here's kind of how it works together in real life to answer all of your questions, but you don't need to worry about it. That kind of thing, you know? And I think that is really beneficial, and people don't do it enough. They try and dumb things down too much or leave out details that they think you can wash away by saying, oh, you don't need to worry about that. But if I don't need to worry about it, but if I know it or I've heard of it, then it explains this thing. And then that makes that thing easier. So, but yeah, in short, like I say, I like to fill you in on details that aren't 100% necessary. I struggle to figure out where the line is between what's necessary for this blog post and what's necessary for a different blog post. I'm trying to figure out, I'm probably going to divide the blog posts up. So my first one is about automation testing and the testing triangle. And I want to go into the technical way of implementing it, but I feel like that's a second blog post. Kind of a different audience as well. But I'm just trying to figure out at what point I slice it and I'll go, right, now we can go on to the next one. It goes part 2, blog post 2, which I'll release like a week later or something. I'm going to try and make sure I've got that in the bag before I actually release the first part. But yeah, I kind of want to release a blog post at least every fortnight, if I can. depending on my workload. But yeah, still waiting for this phone call. God damn it! God damn it! But I'm trying to, in an effort to not get bogged down, trying to jump around a little bit more. So I spent an hour doing my blog, an hour doing development this morning. I'm now going to do an hour on some preparation for a meeting I've got tomorrow. It doesn't feel like work. That's the problem. Preparation for a meeting never feels like work, and it also feels like a waste of time. Like the meeting is basically to see if RadSpider falls under the criteria for something, and then I've got to do a load of stuff for a deadline. There's no point in starting any of that stuff because there's a chance I fall outside of the definition that they need. Definitely skirting the edge of what counts, let alone whether or not I'm even eligible, but we'll see. But yeah, so but I've got a talk with someone tomorrow, a advisor person, and I need to make sure that I don't go in there and just try and blag it all. So I'm going to spend the next hour figuring that out, and then I may jump on to writing automation tests, and then lunch. Trying to jump around left to right, left to right, left to right, instead of just sitting for hours and hours and hours doing the same thing. Because to be honest with you, when I start to get when I start to lose momentum, I always notice it's around the hour and a half mark of working on something, whatever that is, development-wise or other. There's very few scenarios where I'm working on something that's after an hour and a half, I haven't checked the clock. If that makes sense. To be like, God, I feel like I've been doing this for ages. As soon as I feel like I've been doing something for ages, I should swap. That's what I'm going to go for. Today is absolutely blistering by. It's already lunchtime, which is remarkable. I'm halfway through some of the automation tests I have for setting up these steps. I'm trying to figure out whether or not to have lunch now, before the boiler man comes, or after. But he could come between like now and 2, so I feel like if he comes towards the end of this time period, then it's going to be too late anyway. So I may as well just make my sandwich and we'll play it by ear, and then just kind of like, I don't know, man. I don't know, lad. But so far we've had a very productive day so far, ladies and gentlemen. I've just seen a van is moving. I'm going to move my car as well, because I'm going to take that guy's space. Don't ask me how, but I didn't manage to move the car in time. I've just had lunch and spoken to my corporate lawyer. Patents are out of the question. I always knew they were, to be honest with you, but I was advised to look into it by a business advisor, and I'm like, patents, firstly, software isn't very patentable, specifically my kind of software, because it doesn't make anything. Like it's software about software, which is even more, it's like one layer deeper than, less likely to be thinking than software itself. So I wasn't really expecting much of that. I was expecting it to be way too expensive anyway, and that basically any money you were going to throw at patents, bear in mind I can't afford the patent anyway, it should be better just put onto getting a lead. Trademarking is something I'm going to look into to better protect the brand, which apparently I've got, it's a strong brand. So I'm happy about that, I'm glad about that. I'm now just waiting for my boiler man. Just having lunch. Yeah, so it's good, interesting stuff. But I definitely feel like I fall out of the world of patents. And even if I did, I'd have to have so much money that the patent wouldn't matter, you know? Like if someone worked around it, it wouldn't matter to me. And I don't have that much money. So, like I say, I barely think I've got enough money for a patent in the first place, let alone one that I don't care about. So, there's that. Anyway, what shall I do in the meantime before my boiler man comes? I'm going to look at building out a list of prospect clients. Now, one of the things I'm struggling with at the moment is grasping my head around what clients I should be approaching and when and how. So the problem is, effectively, RadSpider is a really big piece of development tooling that I need to do, but once it exists, it's viable to a lot of big companies like Rolls-Royce, Microsoft, big ass software companies would use software like RadSpider. The idea behind the code reviews as a service platform that I wanted to do was firstly to prove the hypothesis that someone would pay a third-party company money in order to assert that they have good code quality. Because that's effectively what RadSpider does. It's a third-party company, but it's a product, and it guarantees that you have consistent code quality. The problem is that code reviews as a service targets a different market to, like Rolls-Royce isn't going to hire a third-party company to do code reviews. It's just not going to happen. Likewise, Microsoft isn't. So it's kind of targeted at a different niche of the market, and I think the niche it's targeted at isn't necessarily... In fact, there is basically no overlap between the niche that it's targeted at and the big one. So I need to figure out if there is an overlap and how to attack that overlap. And that's what I'm going to try and do now while I wait for Mr. Boilerman. Because at the moment I've been kind of going for a bit of a carte blanche approach to companies. Basically picking a smallish companies that fit certain criteria. They are difficult to find. Smallish companies, by their very nature, are difficult to find. The reason that none of this really feels like work is because it's just all thinking. Like programming is thinking, but you write it all down and then you have something that works at the end of it, right? But this is just thinking about stuff. I've just got to sit here and think about things and pretend that's not a waste of my time because I'm writing it down. If I've written it down, then I've got something at the end of it. But all I'm really doing is taking what's here, putting it there. Whereas programming, you take what's here, put it there, and then you have something that's worth something. You know? That's why it feels weird. This boiler, man. My man's come, my man's gone. Fuck knows what's going to happen with this boiler. I think we're still in flux whether or not we can plug the new one up still, whether or not we have to run a pipe that way. Who fucking knows? No one knows. Literally 5 different people to the house. 2 of them have said you have to go that way. 2 of them have said you can go up. And this guy's like, to be honest with you, I don't know, maybe you could go up. Maybe you're in the variance, the range where it's all right to go up. Who fucking knows? Cool beans. So it is 2:15. Right, what should we do? That's knocked me off my steam for a little bit, that has. So let's get into some programming. Programming's usually a good thing to get me back on track. Cup of tea in 45 minutes. Tea o'clock. I don't really know what to say when people are like, so you working from home? Oh, what is it you do then? Don't know the answer to either of those 2 questions. Yes, technically I'm working from home. I liked one of the best reasons for one of my favourite things about my old place was everyone knew it. Whether or not they wanted to admit they knew it, but everyone knew it. And you used to be able to play the game of whether or not they recognise. So you'd be like, oh, where do you work? Here. And then you look into their eyes and you're like, they either recognise the name and they're like, oh, or they don't recognise it. And then you've got to figure out whether or not it's they don't recognise it or they're pretending they don't recognise it. No one goes, oh shit, yeah, I know them. But it was a relatively interesting conversation start because you'd be like, oh, where do you work? Here. And then they're like, oh, really? And then they'd have a load of questions about that. And that was good. But now I'm like, what do you do? So like some of these people I've told I still work for my old company. Some of them I've said, oh no, to be fair, that was while I did still work there, but I didn't mention start my own thing. That guy I just said I start my own thing, but I used to work for this place. I don't know what to say to these people, mate. So while writing my automation tests, I've spotted that the thing that I use, AutoGen, what's it called? Is it called AutoGen? AutoRest, the thing I use to automatically generate my Swagger clients, it doesn't like it if my Swagger client says it's going to return something, but it doesn't return anything. So it just returns null rather than an object. And the reason that I do this is one of the things that I have, I kick back a validation error as an unprocessable entity, and I kick you back some nice useful information if that happens at a certain point. However, there is a scenario where you get an unprocessable entity, but I actually can't really help you that much. So I don't actually have a validation. I don't have a field to tell you which one is invalid, because it's not valid. The question is that the model that you're using is invalid. You see, is this an argument as to why my bad requests should be in this format? I think it is, but then I have a problem again, because bad requests, I don't always tell you why it's a bad request. If you pass me the wrong kind of GUID, for example. I'm trying to figure out a solution for this, because it's not a serverette. It's like a different kind. My unprocessable entities so far have been. There's 2 kickbacks that you can send me. I've got my pajama bottoms on. If you saw that, ladies and gentlemen, I'm getting warm and uncomfortable. I've got to go for a walk soon though. So you could pass me an invalid step, which means I could, in theory, kick you back, put an error against the template ID, the step ID, and kick that back. That's fine. The other thing is pipeline is not configured. Now that is an unprocessable entity. If your pipeline isn't configured, then that's you're trying to process an entity that can't be worked on. But it's nothing to do with your input. It'll be part of your workflow ID, which isn't part of the input of the body, it's part of the URL. I need to figure out whether or not I should use unprocessable entity for both of these errors, and whether or not the error response, I should kick back an object. Ideally, it wouldn't break if I didn't send back an object. It would just set that object to null. That would be the ideal world. Okay. Which is what happens if you send back an object that's not... That's what happens if you send back an object that isn't the right shape. I would have assumed null would have been fine for that. I could kick back just a generic object, literally new up an object and kick that back. That seems a bit dumb. Fixed it. I just need to think about how I'm going to go about testing the successful cases, because because I'm mocking out the databases, effectively the thing that you're updating is the thing I have as a reference. So it's like, I don't have the thing that you're updating. I just did a test that basically went like, get the initial one, test it to the updated one, but they're the same fucking object, basically, because it's all passed in by reference via the automation tests themselves. So I need to figure that bit out. I've just done like a basic test ATM, but I'm effectively done now. So I'm going to head on out for a walk. Laura's not going to be back tonight, so I'm going to carry on doing a bit more work. Bizarre weather today. It's supposed to be hot, but it's not really. It's been all cloudy and muggy. Not even muggy. Well, to be fair, it doesn't even feel that hot in here. Although it did when I was wearing my jeans. So I put my gymmers on. That's a problem to ponder over, boys and girls. As you guys know, now is normally the time that I have myself a little chocolate bar and go and do some work, waiting for Laura to come home. But is now too early to cook my dinner? That's my question. I'm asking myself right now. Dinner will be ready at about... If I start now, dinner will be ready way before 6. We finished at like 5 to 10 to. But I'll be eaten by 6 and then I can do some work. Or do I do a bit of work? I'm going to do some work while I'm cooking it as well though. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to move out my office for a little bit. I'm going to write some blogs. I'm still trying to figure out my solution. Finish off my blog and then I will shut your goddamn mouth. And then I'll do dinner when I'm really peckish for that chocolate bar. Well, Laura wants to lift back, so I'm going to go get her and I'm going to end my video here, ladies and gentlemen, because it's been a long one. Oh, they're not my shoes. Full days like this wear on you. I didn't get a lot of work done after work, after lunch. I finished the story I was working on, but not particularly a lot of work done. It's all merged in now and I've planned out the rest of the stuff I need to do, but nothing else particularly. Be a long ass day working on that. All the way up till now, obviously. But I've played a little bit of Xbox, watched a bit of TV. I'm watching season 3 of Hannibal, and I'm not sure what I think about it. I really liked season 1. Series 2 I didn't really have an opinion of. And Series 3 looks a bit fucking weird, to be honest with you. But I'm going to go. Thanks for watching this video, ladies and gentlemen. We have an outing tomorrow. You'll be pleased to know. So come back for that. Get excited. I'll catch you later.